Hey guys, Momo Guru back, and I'm going to show you how you can build server backgrounds for the game Codelink. Now, once you build a cool background, you'll head to the forums on the website, which is codelinkv2.com, and you post it on the special area of the forums that says help me build servers for the game, and if your server is approved, I put it in the game and all the players get to see it. Alright, so first thing you're going to want to do is grab the links, the images I've linked up here in the comments. This is the small button, this is the large button, and there's the background. This gray box is showing you where the logo is supposed to go. It can go anywhere in here. You can center it. You can move it to the left, move it to the right. Now, if you decide to do a right version template, all you do is select this image, go up to Modify, go to Transform, and flip horizontally right here. But we're not going to do that. I'm going to keep it simple for you on this video. All right, so the other thing you're going to need is some kind of an image that will fill the entire background of the page. And I'm going to do a text server, so I went ahead and grabbed this little text background image that I found off Google. And you can see it's way too big. It's 1920 by 1200, and that's not going to fit the actual server size because the server size is 760 by 420. Alright, so the first thing you're going to want to do is take a look at the image you've used. Right? So we've got this image that I've collected, and this looks like a tech image. So I'm going to want to make a tech-based server. So go back to your background PNG template right here, and now we are going to name our server. We got to come up with a cool name. So since this video is directed at a particular player, I'm going to call this Wolf Technologies. Alright, so you can see that's a very little simple text right there, nothing special. I'll make it a little bit bigger here for you to see. Now, we don't want it to look like that. That's just cheesy and crap. It takes a lot of practice and a really good eye to build logos. And I don't expect you guys to be able to do this right off the bat. Some of you have some incredible graphic skills, some of you not so much. So for those with the not so much skills, let's go ahead and take a look at how I do this. So I'm just going to scoot this down here, and the first thing I notice is that Wolf is going to be the name of the server. So let's make Wolf important. I'm going to make it all in capital letters, just like that. I'm going to change the text to white by going down here and selecting the color, making it white. And now I want to change the font to look something a little bit more techy. You know, it's a matter of preference here. I've been using Classic Robot a lot. I don't want to use that one anymore. Orbitron, that's kind of good. Let's try that Orlon tryout. Yeah, there we go. That looks neat. All right, now here's some tricks. The spacing in between the letters is called kerning. So if you go down to here, you'll see right underneath the font, you've got this A/V, and it's got these little arrows. If you move that up, you can see I can space those letters out. Or I can tighten them up and get them real close to each other. Now, depending on the type of logo you're doing, you may want to pull those letters a little bit tighter, like that, right? So, actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it a little bit different, because the word technologies is kind of big, and I want you to have some room to read it. What I'm going to do is pretend that Wolf is an acronym for something, maybe. Or maybe not. Let's just leave it like that. And now what I'm going to do is create another line of text that just says technologies, but actually I can just take this, take the Wolf off here, hit delete, and now I'm going to use this word technologies to go underneath. But obviously that doesn't look very good, so I'm going to retype the word all in capital letters. Spell. Alright. So there we go. Wolf Technologies. And now what I'm going to do is shrink this down so that that text starts to get a little bit smaller and can fit nice and neat underneath. Now that's a good size for the text, but you notice that it doesn't quite squeeze all the way over. So what I'm going to do is pull that edge a little bit over to the end of the F so that it lines up nice and neat. And now I'm going to go down here and select the justified alignment. And what that'll do is space all the letters out so that each one it has enough space, nice and even, to match up with the wolf. Alright, so now we're off to a good start. We got some text on there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I want to add some effects to the wolf word. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to go under filters. I'm going to select the bevel and emboss, and then inner bevel. And you see it just gives just a little bit of a 3D effect. I'm going to turn down the bevel so that it shows up a little bit better since that font is very thin. There we go. And now I'm going to add another filter under the shadow and glow options for a drop shadow. So now we've got a little bit of drop shadow going there. Now, if I jump back over here and I look at my background, I can see it's kind of bluish. So I think what I'm going to do is make that technologies kind of bluish as well. So let me go ahead and pick something maybe like that. That looks cool. And I'm also going to add a drop shadow to that. Alright, so now we got some text going here. Excuse me. Select both of those. All you have to do is click on one, hold shift, click on the other, and now I want those to group together so that whenever I click on the logo, it's going to move around as a whole. So I hit Control G. Alright, so now we've got Wolf Technologies. And see, that lines up nice and neat. It's plain and simple, nothing special. Alright, so now let's start to play with our background image here. So what I'm going to do is switch back over to the background image tab. I'm going to select the entire image by selecting it, and then I hit Control Copy. I'm going to jump back to the backgrounds, and I'm going to paste that image in. It's going to ask if you want to resample. You don't need to. And this way, you can see this image is really big. Now, there are certain parts of the image that are darker than others. I kind of like that little dark spot there. That's going to make the text very easily readable. However, you got these vertical lines that are going through, and I think that's going to kind of disturb some of the text. So let's move around and see. Okay, here we go. I like that area right about there. That looks pretty good. I like the way this swoop is a little bit darker. You're going to imagine the buttons are going to be right here. You're going to have your logo up here. We'll put some kind of header bar, maybe some kind of vector shapes that'll make this stand out a little bit. Maybe I'll put a little box over here in the middle so that the text can show up really well. And once I get something like that, I'm going to go Modify, Canvas, Trim Canvas. And what it does is gets rid of all that extra stuff. It just basically crops it to the stage. Now you can see my logo is right here, the group of two objects under my layers, and my background is in front. So I'm going to switch that and push my logo up above. And there you go. You got Wolf Technologies. Now a lot of you players say, wow, that looks great. That's good to go. Let's go ahead and export it. And I would say no. And the reason why is you got these busy lines back here that's going to interfere with some of the text. You've got a lot of brightness right here, and that white text over that brightness isn't going to be so readable. So what I want to do is turn that down a little bit. So the way that I do that is I select that part of the image, I go into my filters, I'm going to go to the adjust color, and I'm going to go to the hues and saturation, right? Now I don't want it to be colorized, so I'll turn that off, and you can adjust the lightness here. You can make it really bright, you can make it really dark. You know, ooh, that's kind of looking decent. I'm going to turn that saturation down just a little bit so it gets a kind of a grayish tone to it. You know, you can play with the hues and move those around, maybe get a little bit more of a purple. Ooh, that kind of looks nice. Let's go with the purple. All right, hit OK. So now we've got a background that's usable. That's not going to conflict with the text too much. We've got our little logo started up here, but because this is a little bit more purple, I'm going to jump in here by selecting my sub-selection tool, select only the technologies, and I'm going to change that to more of a purplish hue. Let's do something like, there we go. All right, I like that. Now anybody that knows color theory will know that there are certain colors that are complementary to other colors, and you know, the more of an artist you are, the more of an eye you have for it. This might be an easier part of the process. But you know, with the purple here, I think I want to throw some green in. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go and grab this little rectangle tool here, and let's say I put this right across the top like that. Now, if I need to double check, all I have to do is turn off that layer right here, and I can see, oh, I got a little bit of extra room on my template here, so I'm going to scoot that down right about to there, and then go ahead and turn that background layer back on. I'm going to slide my logo object in front, and now I've got this kind of purplish rectangle here, and I want to turn that purple down, so I'm going to go in here, and I'm going to find a little bit more of a purplish hue, drop that down a bit. Alright, there we go. Actually, you know what, I want it to be even darker. I want it to almost be like a blackish purple. There we go. That's even better. All right. So now what we're going to do is add a little bit of fanciness here to the technologies, or the Wolf Technologies logo. So I'm going to pause the video for a second, and I'm going to go find me a piece of wolf clip art that I can use. I want it to be just a solid wolf. I don't want it to look three-dimensional. I don't want it to look like, you know, a photo of a wolf. I just want a piece of clip art that's just a flat, maybe a white wolf head on a black background, or a black wolf head on a white background. Just something very simple. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here, and then I'll pick it up after I grab me a piece of wolf clip art. Alright, so I found a nice piece of clip art off Google Images, and I always recommend using clip art because clip art is royalty free. Don't go grabbing other people's logos and shit. They will not be accepted. Alright, so now that I grabbed a piece of clip art, I'm going to go ahead and paste it in here. Let's go ahead and Control V, it's asking me if I want to resample. I'll say, yeah, sure, resample it. Now you can see we've got this wolf head. Now, that white is not going to work, so I need to get rid of it. And the way we do that is we use our little magic selection tool here. You can see I've got a level of tolerance in the edge. I want the edge to be a little bit anti-alias, and the tolerance, I'll turn that up to maybe 13 or so. And I'm going to select each of the pieces of white and get rid of them because I don't want them anymore. So we got to get rid of all the white that you see in the logo. Now some of the little tiny little pieces are not really that big of a deal, and the reason why is because once we've selected all of this white, that black wolf head, we want to turn what is black into white, and I'll show you how you do that. So let me go ahead and get rid of all of this stuff here, or at least the majority of it. The parts that matter are important. So, you know, the little tiny pieces of fur here and there, you can see there's little white dots everywhere. That's not really a big deal. Just make sure you get all the big pieces, because once we convert this all to white, you're not really going to notice a difference. Alright, so now I've got this black wolf head and I want to make it white. So what I'm going to do is apply a filter to it called Color Fill. And you can go to Adjust Color, Color Fill. And now we've got red. I want it to be white. Just like that. Okay, now that we've applied that filter with the image selected, just the wolf head, I'm going to go to Modify, Flatten, Selection. And no longer, you see that filter has disappeared, so now this is the image. There's no filter applied to it any longer. We flattened it out. Alright, so I'm going to shrink this down. Something like that. Maybe tuck it up here in the corner. Shrink it down. There we go. Now we're starting to get a little something going. Alright, that looks good. You know, I don't really like this flat bar going across the top. We need to change that up. And I'm going to show you some tricks here. So I select the bar. I go to my subset selection tool, and you'll notice that I can start selecting these little points and moving them around. So we're going to make an interesting little kind of shape. I want the purple to cut between the word technologies and wolf, like this. Nice and neat. There we go. That looks kind of cool. And I'll drag that down a little bit, just like so. And actually it's a little short on top. I see a little bit of that background, so I'm just going to scale it up, just like that. Go ahead and drop that down like so. Alright, so now we got wolf, and it's separating from the word technologies. The wolf head is still a little bit too predominant. I'm going to shrink that down just a little bit more. Try to get it to fit in there nice and neat the way I want. Alright, so now you've got a logo that's acceptable. You've got, you know, your little Clipart icon. You've got your background, so we're off to a good start. So let's do some cool effects. I'm going to select the Wolf Technologies part, and I want to apply a motion blur to it. So I'm going to go down to Filters. I'm going to go into Eye Candy, Motion Trail. Now what this does is it creates a trail, and this will let you select the direction. I want it to go from the left to the right. Okay? And if you look over here, you can see what's happening, but you notice how it tapers off? And because of the blur, it's kind of making it hard to read. So I definitely need to turn down the opacity. Get it something like that. And I don't want any taper. I want it to be a straight, like it's just flying in. There you go. So now you see this effect that it has applied to it. I'm going to turn that opacity down just a little bit more. I don't want it to be making it too difficult to read. There we go. I like that. Alright, so we're off to a good start. I'm going to apply a little bit of a background texture filter to this rectangle box. I'm going to select that, jump down here into textures. As you can see, I've got all these different textures to work with. And let's see which one might look good. That waffle kind of looks cool. Now you can see that's a little too much. It's already getting a little busy up there, and I don't like that effect, so I'm going to turn it down. I just want it to be subtle. There we go. So now we've got this little bit of a grid gradient effect across the top. Well, since we're going to go straight across the top horizontal bar, let's go ahead and throw a footer in there. I'll Control Copy, Control Paste, and I'll drag one down here. It'll be a little bit shorter. And I'm going to do some neat little things to really make this stand out more from the background image, because the purples kind of blend together a little bit. So what I'm going to do is grab the top one, and I'm going to go to Filters, Shadow and Glow, Glow. And you can see it put a red glow underneath. Well, I want that to be black. And that's going to do two things. Not only is that glow going to be black, and I can adjust it out a little bit more. Let's turn up the alpha transparency. You see? So now we've got this drop shadow effect, but it also puts a little bit of black behind the word technology, and I like that. And we're going to do the exact same thing here. Go to Shadow and Glow, make it glow, make it black, turn it up a little bit, and turn up the alpha. So now we've got a little bit of a black shadow coming down and a little bit of a black shadow coming up. All right, so we're almost done. Now what we need to do is add some eye candy. Let me show you some neat little tricks. All right, so the first thing we want to do is we're just going to throw something in there that says private access terminal. You can make this say whatever you want. You can make it say, you know, private computer, you know, something that's going to sound somewhat technical. My dyslexia is kicking in. All right, now I don't need that to be like that in the middle of the page. I want it to be something just small and subtle in the bottom. I'm going to shrink that font size down, maybe down to like a 10, something real small. There we go. Tell you what, we'll put it right in the middle, just like that. That looks kind of cool. Now there's lots of other little effects and things that you can do. I could sit here and play with this image for 30 minutes and just keep refining it and making it better and better and better. Now we know the navigation bar is going to be right about here, so let's go ahead and take a look. Let's turn off the background image and see where things are lining up. Alright, that's not too bad. I would kind of prefer wolf technology to be scooted over a little bit, so maybe what I'll do is just shrink down the wolf head just a little bit more, something like that. And I need that wolf head to stand out, so I'm going to go ahead and pop a black glow behind it. Actually, you know, it might be interesting if I make the glow the same color as the word technologies. Let's see how that looks. I'll go ahead and turn my background image on again. That's looking, that's kind of gay. Let's fix that. We'll turn down the transparency on the glow so it's not so strong. I like the color effect, it's just, it's too much, it's overpowering. Alright, and we'll turn the background image on. Alright, that's looking good. So now I can select this, select the wolf head. I'm going to Control G that to group them all together and scoot it a little bit more over, and now we've got things kind of lining up nice and neat. Let's go ahead and turn that background image on again, and I'm going to grab another rectangle and I'm going to put it right behind, like that. Alright, so I don't want the rectangle over the logo. I actually want it just in front of the background image, so we have something like this. And again, I'm going to go down here to the texture effect. We got a little bit of waffle. Let's go ahead and throw that on there. Now, and another cool thing you can do with this is you can make that texture effect transparent. You can almost see these lines coming up here through the background. And I'm going to turn down the alpha transparency so that it's just barely layered over. I don't know why I did that. There we go. So it's just barely layered over, and it gives you that little area. Now here's the area where the text is going to go. So I don't want that background sticking through too much. So I'm going to make another rectangle that goes over top of this. And I'm going to make that rectangle solid black. It still has that waffled effect to it, so it's showing that background through. And I'm going to turn that down a little bit. So now we're getting something like this. Alright, so now the text area is going to be a little bit easier to read. And there you go. You have a nice and easy, simple server. It didn't take me but 15 minutes to put this together. And if you follow these rules and you follow these steps and make sure that the sizes are correct, you will have a perfect background image. Alright, but we're not done yet. We still need to make some kind of cool buttons. So this is how you make buttons. And one thing to note is that because these are PNG files, they will retain transparency. So we're going to do something kind of interesting here with one of these buttons. I'm going to go to button number 1. You can see it right here. So if I go ahead and select that image and go back to my background and paste it in, you'll see this is the button. You see it's got enough room on both sides or whatever. So what I want to do is make the button width 150 and height 23 so that it matches the exact same size as the buttons on the server. But I'm going to create a new one out of this piece. So I'm going to Control Copy, Control Paste. You see I got this little piece right here. I'm going to go down here, say 150, and then down here make it 23. So now they're the same size, and you can see the button layered over top of that button will create a nice little effect. But what we're going to do is we're going to take it even a step further. I'm going to add an inner glow. So I go down the shadow and glow. I want an inner glow, and I want to offset that inner glow just a little bit so that it gives me that kind of rounded, I don't know, like framed effect. I want to turn the glow down so it's not too many pixels wide, but I also want to turn up the transparency so that you can at least see it. Now the button is a little, oops, I don't want that. Give me the other one. Let's scoot it down. Where's the button at? Right there. Let's scoot that up to the top so I can see it. Alright, so what I'm going to do is take this, and with that inner glow, I think that waffle transparency is a little too much. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off because we've already got a transparent button, right? If you move it to an area that doesn't have the waffle, you'll see that it's completely transparent. But I'm going to turn up the transparency there And there we go. So now we've got a button that's kind of matching. And what I'm going to do is a little bit of an advanced technique here. I'm going to add one more point in my rectangle. So after I've selected it, I'm going to go over here to my pen tool, and I'm going to, well, first I need to select one of these points so that it'll allow me to grab the pen. And now I'm going to put one more point right on there, just like that. And I am going to grab the top point, hit shift, and grab the bottom point, and just scoot those over using my arrow key, like that. So now I've got almost like a pointy button. And that looks kind of cool. I'm going to keep that. Let's go ahead and get rid of that red one right there. So now I know what the button's going to look like. I'm going to control copy that. I'm going to delete it off this page, go back into my red button, get rid of that one, and paste in the new one. So there we go. There's our new button. It's already retaining the transparency behind it, so make sure when you export the button it has the transparency. And now I'll select that one and just make a larger version of that, maybe even a little bit different for button number 2. So the way that you do that, the easiest way to do that, is get rid of that one and paste in button number 1. I'm going to go over here and grab that and just move it down until it covers the whole thing. Just like so. And I guess for consistency, I'll move that point to the center. Just like that. Alrighty. So now we've got the background image, the button image, and the small button image. And that's it. It's not that hard. Now, like I said, I could sit here and play with this for hours. I can, you can get up in here and do all kinds of little things that have really neat effects. You can apply different filters. You can screen images over top and over the bottom. I recommend that you try to maintain some level of consistency throughout the design so that it makes sense. If you start getting too many fonts in there, if you start getting too many colors, things just get a little bit too busy. And you got to remember, this is not the important part. This is the image. This is just the branding that goes with that server. So you don't want to overdo it, but then again, you don't want to underdo it either. I'm not looking for just a word on top of a Google background image. You got to put some effort into this. So I got a little swipe going there. That looks kind of cool. And I got a little swipe going over here. That looks kind of cool. Well, there might be something I could do with this piece right here. So maybe I select, see if I can get one of these. I'm going to go ahead and just push it to the front so it's nice and easy for me to work on. And let's do one of these gangsters. Just to give it a little bit of difference. There we go. And then I'll pop that back down right in front of the image. And you can see we got something like that, like it's a little panel sticking out or something. Alright, well there we go. We've got a Wolf Technology server. I would accept this server if someone sent it. Now granted, normally the ones that I do I take a little bit more time on, but I'm just trying to make a simple video that shows you some of the basics on how this works. Alright, so now that I've got this, I need to export it. And you can see that if you go to the preview mode, this is only 81K. But if you look at this, that does not look good. It's all kind of weird. It's got all kind of little dots everywhere, and that's not going to look very nice. So let's fix that. I'm going to go up in here. We've got it at Web 216 with 216 colors. Let's go 128 colors exact. Alright, that's doable. It's still got a little bit of graininess in there, but you can see the file size is acceptable. It's under 100K. Yeah, I think, that's acceptable. I would accept that. Alright, so now I'm going to take this, go to File, Export. I'm going to export it right onto the desktop. Just go bam, like that. I'm just canceling because I don't want to overwrite my template images. And there you go. And you would export each one of these. Now for this one, for the buttons, you want to make sure you're maintaining your transparency. So when you go and do your exports, make sure that the transparency is on. If you don't, this little area right here would be solid white. So we wouldn't want that. Alright, so I went ahead and added the little dots to make this an acronym. I thought that looked better with it since the word was spaced out so much. And now I'm going to show you one last little thing you can do. This is completely optional and it's not required for your server to be accepted. There are default button images that can automatically be used if you only submit a background. They're just transparent. They have a nice little rounded rectangle around them, nice, straightforward, and simple. But if you prefer, some of the pages do show a building image. So I'm going to show you how you do that. I'm going to go ahead over here, and we've got our little building image template. It's also a PNG, and its size, I believe, is 180 by 300. So what I'm going to do is paste in a little building image, and what I've done is hopped on Google and found some 3D building, and I'm going to paste it in. You can see it doesn't fit. There's extra that's cropped on either side, but that's fine. I like that. So I'm going to scoot this over, and I say that's about what I want. I'm going to modify, canvas, trim canvas, so that all I get is this picture. Now what I want to do is see how that looks on the background. So I'll go ahead and paste that in and just see the background image just sit over here. And right off the bat, I don't like it, and the reason why is the colors don't match up. So because it's got all this blue, the rest of the colors, that green looks great, and even that off red down there looks kind of cool. I like that purplish sky background, but that blue is not going to work for me. So what I'm going to do, I'll go ahead and delete that off there. Go back to the building image. I'm going to go down here to Filters, Adjust Colors, Hues and Saturation. It doesn't need to be that dark because there's no text going over top of that, but you can see that my last settings that I used with that purple is being applied to this one. So I'm going to hit OK. That looks pretty good. And now what I'm going to do is apply a little bit of an inner glow effect so that the inside won't have such hard edges. There we go. Let's turn up that glow just a little bit. Well, I'll turn it up all the way. Something like that. And then I'm going to take it even a step further and create a little bit of an inner bevel. So let's go down into Bevels and Emboss. Matter of fact, I think I'm going to do a frame. So I'm going to select the inner bevel, and instead of it being flat, I'm going to go with frame, like that. I'm going to turn it down so it's a thin frame. And I don't want the frame part over top. Let's go ahead and turn that down. Yeah, just like that. So then we get something like that. Now let's test out what that looks by copying it and pasting it onto our background just to see how it looks. That looks great. That is more than a sufficient and acceptable server. Alright, so now we've created all the images we need. So let's get rid of that. We're going to export each one. You go to File, Export. Now I've already got it named. Hit the Export button, and you're good to go. You do that for that, the button number 1, and your building image. Let's go ahead and export that one. We'll call that Building. Actually, let's make it Building Wolf. Don't overwrite anything, and bam, there you go. So, now we've got all the images there. I'll go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to put the server in the game and show you what it looks like. Alright, and there you see it. There's the server in the game, in the in-game browser. You see all the text is lined up on the buttons properly. The buttons aren't too small, they're not too big, nothing is overlapping. Our extra image is showing up properly. Everything is nice and neat and aligned. You can click through, you can take a look at everything else, make sure everything is looking nice. If you want to take a look at the larger buttons, there you go. Nothing's popping off the buttons. Perfect. Not much more to it. Alright guys, I plan on doing another tutorial that is going to walk you through some of the creation of the conversations. But for those that are looking to build servers, this is pretty much everything you need to know. If you got any problems, don't be afraid to post the questions on the forum. And you can very easily see the servers that have been accepted and the servers that have been rejected. So if you see some servers in there that never made it into the game, look and you'll see why. It's usually because you're not formatting the sizes properly, you're not exporting the images as PNGs properly, and in most cases it's because your background is too bright or your buttons are too bright for the white text. Alright guys, Momo Guru signing out. Have fun. Let me know if you need help.